Now, Poland and the Baltic states have jointly called for the European Union to reinforce its eastern borders, and this call is in response to increasing tensions and security threats emanating from Belarus, which has been accused of destabilizing activities and facilitating illegal migration into the EU.
Exactly, and now joining us to discuss this topic further is Tomasz Pisula, international affairs expert and also a former member of the Atlantic Council. Good morning and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
So now, why are Poland and the Baltic states now, at this moment, urging the European Union to strengthen its eastern borders?
I guess with the formation of new management of the European Union, this is the time to negotiate or put in common initiatives into the common budget. And of course, the migration that we had seen, the weaponized migration from Belarus, is causing extra costs to the economies of the Baltic states, to the economy of Poland. And I guess this was the proper time to mention that. Of course, there was a significant step up from pushing migrants through the borders by Belarusian regime, and I guess this is seen as a let's say a step up action from the Polish side, showing Lukashenko that we will not back down, we will defend our border.
So what specific measures are Poland and the Baltic states now proposing to strengthen the EU's eastern border?
From what I know, the border is protected, and let's say some of the installations on the border have been put in place as far as 3 or 4 years ago. But of course, we are talking about hundreds of kilometers of common borders, so we have to put physical installations there. We have to organize intelligence activities. We have to pay for soldiers and border protection to patrol those areas, and that costs money. And I guess this is the first time that we actually said that we would greatly appreciate EU in participating in those costs. So it's from my perspective, it's the same thing as happened before. However, at this moment, we realize that the costs, chances are, we'll have to bear them for much longer than we expected, and that's why we have to. We should mention that, you know, for the common benefit of the EU and protection of the borders, we might just as well have EU take this issue as not a bilateral issue of Poland and Belarus, Lithuania and Belarus, and so forth, but rather as a common EU policy. And I guess this is what this was meant to be.
And now, do we know anything about the reaction of other EU countries, or maybe what their reaction might be? And then also, once, I mean, I know, like you said, it's going to be a process because there's hundreds of kilometers across the border. How might Russia react to such actions?
We have to remember that Russia was actually one of the originators. So well, Russia has initiated this whole this whole migration issue. I remember Norwegian diplomats complaining about migrants from the Middle East crossing the border in the far north, in polar circle between Norway and Russia, as far back as 2010, 2012. And I remember one of the Norwegian diplomats telling me that the shortest way from Baghdad to Brussels was through Norwegian border with Russia. That Russia was bringing in Middle Easterners to St. Petersburg, from there taking them up to the Norwegian border. Then the migrants were buying or were given bicycles, and they were crossing the Norwegian border. So we have to remember that it's Russia that's always at the backbone of this business, and then Belarus, and I guess Belarus is doing pretty much the same thing all over again. Lukashenko was threatening Europe also a good couple of years ago, saying that he will flood Europe with illegal migrants and with drugs. That's what he said. I haven't heard much about drug smuggling. Perhaps this is a possible, a step-up measure from him. So far, he's been quite effective in pushing people through and then causing distress and having us redirect our resources that we might be using elsewhere to the border.
So what are the potential risks and benefits now of strengthening eastern borders from a geopolitical perspective? How do you see it?
We have to strengthen borders. That's undisputable. We can't negotiate that. Secondly, well, it does hit local economies on the borders with with Russia and on the borders with Belarus. Of course, tourism will be affected. Of course, there was a part of this, let's say, local economy. This gray zone of, let's say, smuggling and servicing smuggling, and of course in many states no one would say that, but in democratic states, but a little bit of let's say illegal money, that's like this lubricant that makes economies happen. There's always this gray zone, and it's inevitable in any economy around the world, and I guess we are minimizing that. So I guess some of the people living along the border won't be that happy with what's happening. It's never good to have this, Chinese wall on your border, but for the time being, we'll have to get used to that. And because of the possibility of war, because of the threat of let's say physical aggression, we just need to spend more money on protecting our borders. Ursula von der Leyen just said recently that the cost of defending Europe's eastern borders is approximated to be 500 billion euro. It's uncertain whether she meant arms supplies to Ukraine as well as border protection, or whether she meant border protection itself. If she meant border protection itself, that means that Europe is up for big spending just on border control. Yeah, I mean it's not good. It's better to have open trade. It's better to have migration through the border. It's better to have the populations of both countries working together. It's not good to kind of cut ourselves off from Belarusians who deserve to travel to Poland. They are peace-loving people, and and of course they would benefit from the trade. But for the time being, I guess Lukashenko is the problem.
All right, and we're going to have to leave it there. Tomasz Pisula, international affairs expert, former member of the Atlantic Council. Thank you very much for sharing your insight here this morning.
Thank you.